CEO's life changed at 3 a.m., unbelievable moment when boy called him dad, shocking twist revealed. The clock struck 3, piercing the silence of the night like a siren's wail. In that instant, Mark Jensen's world unraveled. He jolted awake, beads of sweat dampening his brow. Something was off. A chill danced along his spine as he glanced at the darkened figure lurking in the corner of his room. The dim glow from the streetlight outside barely illuminated the boy standing there, his wide eyes shimmering with a strange mixture of fear and curiosity. "Dad?" the boy whispered, breaking the stillness like glass shattering on concrete. Mark's heart raced. Who was this kid? He felt a lump in his throat, panic rising like bile. Was this some kind of sick joke? The night had been silent until that moment. The wind outside howled mournfully, as if warning him of the impending chaos. Mark's mind raced. Was this a dream? Dreams didn't feel like this. The boy, no older than 8, seemed unreal, like a ghost from a past he couldn't remember. He was wearing a tattered hoodie, and the edges were frayed, exposing his fragile frame. Mark's pulse quickened, a tightness forming in his chest. Something about those familiar eyes struck a chord deep within him, a connection he couldn't quite place. As the boy stepped closer, Mark could see his dirt-smudged cheeks and trembling hands. How did he get in here? Thoughts bombarded him. Was he a runaway? The darkness swallowed up the room, amplifying the mystery. Silence hung thick, suspended in air. Mark couldn't find his voice, only the pounding of his heart. He wanted to reach out, to reassure the boy, but his body felt heavy and immobilized, gripped by fear. Then, out of nowhere, a noise jerked him from his reverie, a soft thud echoed from the hallway. The boy flinched, glancing anxiously towards the door, as if expecting company, but company he dreaded. Whatever was swirling in the darkness outside was more terrifying than the ghost before him. Mark was on the verge of asking who the boy really was, of demanding answers when the words came tumbling out. "Why did you call me that?" He was trembling now, a mixture of anger and confusion driving him. Was this a prank? A cruel joke? But the boy's gaze remained steady. "You're my dad, aren't you?" "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. "Dad," it echoed in his ears, refusing to leave a twisting sensation in his gut. He was a CEO, powerful and in control, not a dad. Yet, something in the boy's innocent face ignited long-buried memories, like ashes sparking to life. Mark's mind raced. How could he be a father? It was impossible. And yet, the boy's sheer desperation gripped at his heart. He took a cautious step forward, the air thick between them. "What do you mean?" he managed, voice trembling. But before the boy could answer, another noise, more insistent now, echoed from the other room. A door creaked slowly. A figure, shadowy and menacing, slipped into view just as the lights flickered ominously. The tension crackled like static in the air. Mark's breath caught. Who was behind that door? And what dark secrets did this boy carry with him? Just as the room plunged into darkness, he realized the answer could shatter his already fragile world. The boy's frightened whisper cut through the gloom. "We have to go, now." All eyes were on them, silence screaming all around. In that moment, Mark knew their lives were about to be irrevocably changed. But would he follow this cryptic child into the unknown, or was he about to uncover a truth that could cost him everything? Mark felt paralyzed for a moment, heart thrumming like a drum in his chest. The boy's wide eyes held a mix of terror and urgency that shattered his uncertainty. He had no clue who the figure was bleeding into the dark, but he understood one thing clearly: they needed to move. What? Go where? Mark stammered, his voice barely masking the rising panic. Dad! The boy's insistence came sharper now. We don't have time. They're coming. Before Mark could process what they meant, instinct kicked in. He lunged forward, grabbing the boy's hand and pulling him into the hallway. The atmosphere was thick with dread, the shadows loomed large, like tendrils of some lurking beast. With hurried steps, Mark and the boy made their way toward the staircase. His mind raced not just with questions but with the fear that clawed at the edges of reason. Who was this child? How did he know Mark? The idea of being a father felt more foreign with each frenzied heartbeat. The rusty creak of a downstairs door sent chills racing up his spine. They were not alone. Mark glanced back at the boy, who looked frightened but resolute. Something in that fragile frame pushed against his own shock. He had to protect him. Listen, Mark said, his voice wavering slightly, whatever's happening, we can face it together, but I need you to tell me everything you know. The boy nodded, his grip tightening. I will, but we don't have time for that now. He pointed down the dark staircase, where a sliver of light peeked from underneath another door. We need to get outside fast. They raced down the stairs, Mark's heart pounding louder than his footsteps. He felt the weight of the boy's gaze pulling him back, anchoring him to a reality he couldn't comprehend. As they reached the bottom, the silence around them felt too heavy, almost moldy with the scent of dust and despair. He hesitated, casting a cautious glance around the dimly lit room. A scratchy voice echoed faintly from a distance, murmuring fragments that made Mark's blood run cold. You can't escape. I know you're here. What is that? Mark breathed, the fear constricting his throat. They're looking for you, the boy answered, fear lacing his words. You're in danger. The tension thickened like cold air before a storm, pressing against Mark's chest. Me? Why? But just then, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed ominously from the roof above them. Thud, thud, thud. The noise vibrated through the floorboards and reverberated in Mark's mind like a warning bell. He spun around to protect the boy, instinctually positioning himself in front of him. They were trapped. In that moment, Mark felt the despair crawl up his legs like cold fingers. There was no way out unless he found the key to whatever madness surrounded him. Listen to me, Mark said, urgency spilling into his voice. You need to trust me. We need to find a way out of here. Do you know how? The boy took a shaky breath, the innocence in his eyes intertwining with something deeper, something almost ancient. There's a secret way, but it's risky. We must hurry before they realize we're gone before it's too late. Then lead the way. He urged, every nerve in his body alight with adrenaline. Just as Mark began to follow, a deafening crash echoed from above. The world tilted on its axis. The boy's face went pale. Mark felt a profound sense of dread deepen, amplifying the urgency and panic. What was that? The boy cried, eyes wide and terrified. No time. Mark shouted. Go. They took off down another hallway, uncertainty and fear entwining their steps as they hurried toward the door at the end. With desperation threading through his veins, Mark prayed it wasn't a one-way ticket to hell, but as they neared the door, he caught a glimpse of movement behind them. He turned just in time to see a dark silhouette barreling toward them, a figure cloaked in shadows, face obscured. It advanced relentlessly, a predator zeroing in on its prey. Mark gritted his teeth, adrenaline racing. Run! Just as they reached the door, Mark slammed it open, stepping into the dawning light of a new day. But the sinister figure loomed closer, threatening to swallow them whole. Will they escape the encroaching danger, or will it consume them both? With every heartbeat, Mark realized he was on a path from which there might be no return. The morning sunlight burst into the hallway, illuminating the dusty air that shimmered like an old film reel. Mark and the boys stumbled out into the daylight, the door slamming shut behind them with a resounding thud, cutting off the shadowy menace that chased them. The brightness felt blinding but hopeful, a stark contrast to the nightmare they had just escaped, Mark gasped, trying to catch his breath, while the boys scanned their surroundings, eyes darting from tree to tree as if waiting for another threat to emerge. They stood on the edge of what looked like a deserted lot, overgrown with weeds, old machinery rusting in the sun. "Where do we go now?" Mark asked, the panic still bubbling beneath the surface. The boy pointed toward a dilapidated metal shed in the far corner of the lot. "That way," he whispered urgently. "Hurry." Mark took the boy's hand again, his grip protective. They sprinted toward the shed, sweat trickling down Mark's back, heart hammering violently against his ribcage. What were they running from? And why was this child who claimed to be his son at the center of it? As they reached the shed, Mark yanked open the door. It creaked ominously, revealing an interior crowded with tools, crates, and cobwebs draping corners like forgotten memories. Mark felt a wave of relief but quickly suppressed it, remembering the vengeful figure they'd left behind. "Is this safe?" Mark asked, already stepping inside, striving for a balance of caution and urgency. The boy hesitated at the entrance, peering around before nodding. "For now. But we have to be quick. They'll follow us." "Who? Who are they?" Mark pressed, frustration bleeding into his voice. He needed answers, not riddles. The boy blew out an anxious breath, stepping further into the shed. They're after you. I don't know how to explain, but it's because of something it's something important." His eyes glimmered with an age beyond his years. Before Mark could respond, the sound of shouting broke through the silence outside. Voices echoed, sickeningly close. Panic clawed at Mark's throat. He crouched down, pulling the boy close. "Stay quiet," he murmured, glancing toward the door, where shadows flickered past. He could make out heavy boots stomping on the ground outside, the frenzied rhythm sounding like a war drum in his ears. One of the voices shouted, "We know you're out there, Mark. You can't hide. We'll find you." Mark's insides twisted. Who was hunting him? What had he done? Questions swirled, his mind was a tempest of thoughts, interspersed with his fight-or-flight instincts. "They can't find us," the boy whispered. "Not if we stick together. You promise you won't leave me?" Mark blinked, his breath hitching. "I promise. I won't leave you. I don't even know why you're here, but I swear I will protect you." Just then, the sounds outside grew louder, punctuated by the crash of boots smashing against something solid. It was only a matter of seconds before their hiding place would be breached. "They're coming," the boy yelled, with no other option. Mark grabbed a rusty pipe lying on the shed floor, clutching it tightly. "We have to fight," he said, adrenaline surging. The boy nodded fiercely, a mix of fear and determination flaring in his eyes. As the door slowly creaked open, Mark steeled himself, ready for whatever lay beyond. The moment was upon them, the air electric with the tension. He could feel the weight of destiny pressing down heavily. It wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about uncovering the truth, even if it meant facing an unimaginable horror. And just then, he heard the rumble of a voice, low and familiar, one that sent chills down his spine. "Mark. You shouldn't have run." What did they want from him? Could he protect this child? As footsteps began to spill into the shed, dread enveloped his heart. The confrontation was looming, and its consequences were unknown. Would he find the strength to uncover the truth, or would the shadows surrounding him devour them both? The answer lingered in the air, unspoken and sinister, as the door creaked wide open. The door burst open, slamming against the shed wall. Mark's heart thundered as a silhouette stepped into the harsh sunlight, the outline of a man garbed in a dark coat. His presence filled the space, a disconcerting blend of authority and foreboding. "Mark," the figure said, his voice low, smooth as oil yet laced with menace. "We can end this right now. Just come with me." Mark tightened his grip on the pipe, the rusted metal cold against his palm. "I'm not going anywhere with you." He spat, fear clawing at his throat as he shifted protectively in front of the boy. Is that so? The man chuckled, a sound that dripped with arrogance. You have no idea what you're up against. You're in over your head. With a swift motion, the man stepped inside the shed, shadows drifting off him as he moved. Mark could sense the boy trembling beside him, the innocent child caught in this chaos. Stay close to me, Mark whispered, barely able to peel his eyes away from the man who seemed to take pleasure in their fear. Put down the pipe, Mark. You don't want to hurt anyone, the man said, raising his hands slowly, as if trying to diffuse the tension. That's rich. You're the one looking to make threats. Mark countered, his voice trembling. The man smiled, a chilling grin that didn't reach his eyes. Oh, you think this is a threat? No, this is merely a precursor to what's coming. You should understand that running isn't an option anymore. Not for you, and certainly not for him. Mark's heart raced, the underlying implication settling like a stone in his stomach. What do you mean by that? Before he could get an answer, the shouts outside intensified. A group of figures stormed into view, one of them wearing combat boots, their movements precise and synchronized. Panic surged in Mark. They're here. The boy shouted, his voice quivering. We have to go, Mark. Now. Shut up. The man snapped, glaring at the child. You're just putting lives in danger. In that moment, the boy stepped forward, his small face filled with determination. I'm not afraid of you. Mark felt a surge of something defiance. Pride? Whatever it was, it fueled his resolve. He turned to the boy, gripping his shoulder gently. I want to let them take you. We'll find a way out. The man laughed again, contempt dripping from his words. You're going to need more than resolve, Mark. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Let me help you. Help? Or manipulate? Mark gritted his teeth, sweat beginning to bead on his forehead as the shadows outside drew nearer. I won't trust you. This isn't the time for games. The man stepped closer. I know more than you can imagine. They're coming for you because of your past. You have to understand this isn't just about you anymore. Every word felt like a punch. Mark struggled to keep his voice steady. What did I do? What do you know? The man's eyes gleamed, revealing a flicker of something anger, perhaps. I know you made a choice, and now it's time to pay the price. Just then, a loud crash from outside rattled the shed, and the first figure burst in, gun drawn, scanning the room like a predator. We got him. Mark, you're finished. He yelled. The room froze. Mark's mind raced. The sudden shift in power paralyzed him. He glanced at the boy, whose wide eyes spoke volumes. Without thinking, Mark took a step back, pushing the boy toward the shed's darkest corner. Run! He urged, his voice cracking. The boy nodded, quick on his feet, but the man standing opposite him raised a hand sharply, commanding attention. You think you can run? You won't make it far, he sneered, the echo of chaos assaulted their ears. Time felt suspended, and Mark knew, deep down, this was at the moment everything would change. He had to protect the boy, but how? Fear gripped Mark as he prepared to charge, desperate to shield them both from the crushing reality that threatened to engulf them. Would he fight or would he flee? And just as they seemed cornered, a deafening explosion filled the air, leaving nothing but a haunting silence behind. What would emerge from that silence, and who would stand at its center when the dust settled? The unknown loomed, dark and foreboding, waiting to unleash its secrets and horrors upon them. The air felt thick and still, as if time had halted in the aftermath of the explosion. Mark blinked, disoriented, sensing the deafening roar of chaos starting to fade into a distant hum. He instinctively clenched the pipe, veins pulsing in his temple as adrenaline surged through him. The man in the dark coat momentarily lost his composure, eyes darting. What the hell was that? He muttered, frustration seeping into his cool demeanor. Mark seized the moment. The boy hadn't moved, still crouched in the corner wide-eyed, vulnerable. This was their chance. Now! Mark shouted, his voice breaking through the fog. They had to get out before the mercenaries regrouped, the boy's face etched with determination. He nodded and bolted for the shed's back exit. Mark followed closely, the shadows of chaos trailing them. Just as they broke through to the outside, sirens wailed in the distance nearing, ominous. Stay together. Mark urged as they sprinted towards the tree line, the landscape blurring into a chaotic whirl. The shed erupted behind them in flames, a relentless inferno punctuating their escape. He glanced back, seeing the dark figure stagger in disbelief, trapped in the flames that danced with savage delight. Mark felt a pang of guilt, but the boy needed him. He had to focus. Where do we go? The boy panted, glancing up at Mark, fear mixed with desperation. His young face bore the weight of uncertainty, and for a moment, Mark could see in the boy's eyes a flicker of hope balanced on a razor's edge. We find a place to hide, Mark replied, his voice steady despite the tumult brewing inside him. Somewhere he can't reach us. They reached the tree line, branches slapping at them as they pushed through. The thudding of their hearts synced with each frantic footfall. Mark felt the weight of every promise he had ever made to protect this child. Suddenly, a shot rang out, echoing through the trees. Mark's breath caught in his throat. Run! He shouted again, grabbing the boy's hand, pulling him deeper into the woods. He could sense the urgency, hunters trailing them, relentless shadows eager to close in. After what felt like an eternity of untamed movement, they stumbled into a small clearing. Panting, they fell to the ground, hidden by the underbrush, catching their breath in the eerie silence that followed the chaos. Why did he want me? The boy whispered, eyes shining with fear and bewilderment. Who was that man? Mark resisted the urge to pull the boy into a comforting embrace. I'll explain later. Right now, we need to stay quiet. The boy searched Mark's face, seeking reassurance. You're not going to let him take me, are you? Mark shook his head, a fierce protectiveness igniting within. I promise, he murmured. No one's taking you anywhere. I won't let it happen. But deep down, the doubt gnawed at him. The man had hinted at secrets Mark had buried long ago. What choices had he made that could endanger them both? Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes prompted them into silence. Mark tensed, heart thundering as the shadows loomed closer. They were not alone. Emerging from the thicket was a woman, her face hardened yet familiar. Jagged emotions coursed through Mark as recognition struck him. Sarah. He breathed, scarcely believing. Before he could reach out, a deep voice called behind her. You didn't think you could just run away, did you, Mark? Fear seesawed in his chest as he turned, bracing himself for the unfolding storm. The man from the shed had not been defeated, he had only regrouped. With the walls closing in, Mark knew his fight was far from over. They had to find a way out, fast before anyone else discovered the truth buried in his past. What secrets would spill next? And who else would be drawn into this deadly game as the shadows closed in? Tension swirled in the clearing as Sarah stepped forward, her expression a mixture of anger and disbelief. Mark, what are you doing here? We thought you were dead. Her voice trembled, but there was no time for sentiment. They were all in danger. Sarah, I can explain later, Mark said urgently, already sensing the danger closing in. We don't have much time. He pulled the boy closer, instinctively shielding him. Where's the boy? Sarah asked, scanning the underbrush for any signs of trouble. Mark, we have to move. There are others. A thud echoed through the woods, cutting her off. Mark's heart raced as he turned to see the dark-coated man emerging from the shadows, a cruel smile playing on his lips. Did you really think you could run, Mark? He taunted, stepping forward. The man's confidence was infuriating. Anger surged through Mark, but he forced himself to stay calm. What do you want from us? He demanded, stepping in front of the boy. The man chuckled. I want what belongs to me. You've always known that, all it takes is one word to unravel everything. He shifted his gaze to Sarah, eyes flashing dangerously. And we can always start with you. Sarah tensed beside Mark. You're a monster, she spat, gripping a branch. You can't threaten us, oh, but I can. The man's voice dripped with malice. I have people who would do anything for me. And they're searching for you. All of you. It's only a matter of time before I find what I'm looking for. Mark stepped back, pulling the boy behind him. The woods had become a cage with no way out. Panic clawed at him. Somewhere within the shadows, danger lurked, ready to pounce. Don't move, Mark warned, feeling the weight of his pipe in his hand. It was a flimsy defense against the chaos that surrounded them, but it was all he had. Let us not make this harder than it needs to be, the dark-coated man said, raising a pistol. Just hand over the boy and we'll all walk away from this. That's a fair trade, don't you think? The boy's grip on Mark tightened, fear rippling through him. Mark felt the boy's trembling. He had to protect him, no matter the cost. You're not touching him. He shouted, adrenaline muting any trace of fear. A slight rustle came from behind, snapping Mark's focus away from the man. His heart dropped. More shadows crept in, peering through the trees, eyes hungry for a chase. Let us finish this, the dark-coated man declared, approaching slowly, purposefully. Mark, we have to go. Sarah said, her voice urgent, her eyes darting around for a way out. We can't stay here. Mark shook his head. Not without the boy. The thought of losing him sent electricity through his veins. But each second stretched painfully. The man's smile widened, and he stepped closer. Mark's instinct screamed to act. Run! He yelled to the boy and Sarah, flinging himself at the towering figure. His pipe clashed against the man's arm, the gun flying from his grip. Mark dove after it, but in the chaos, gunshots rang out, echoing like thunder amid the trees. Go! He shouted again, feeling the heat of the moment ignite. Sarah grabbed the boy, and they darted into the thick underbrush. Mark scrambled up, adrenaline pumping as he wheeled around, eyes burning with fury. The man was recovering, and Mark could hear others breaking away from the tree line. The hunt was on. He took off, following the sounds of Sarah and the boy. They had to reach safety, had to escape the approaching storm. But deep down, the creeping dread loomed. They couldn't run forever. Just as he caught up with them, a loud crack split the air. Mark spun around, confronting the advancing figures. Desperation clawed at him, and he knew there was only one way out. Trust me. He yelled, rushing forward, not knowing where it would lead. Would they take their chance, or was this the moment everything would change? And in the shadows, a deeper truth waited to be unveiled. The air crackled with chaos as Mark pushed himself through the tangled brush, Sarah and the boy just ahead of him. The crack of a branch echoed close behind, and Mark turned, his heart pounding. More figures were emerging, their faces obscured by the dusk light, but their intentions radiated danger. Keep running! Mark shouted, forcing his legs to pump faster as he weaved through the undergrowth. The boy's terrified whimper reached him, a sound that twisted like a knife in his gut. Mark could already feel the impending dread swelling in his chest. They had to find safety, but the woods felt endless, a dark maze of looming shadows and danger. Sarah glanced back, her breath coming in hurried gasps. What's the plan? They're getting closer. Her voice was laced with raw panic, but Mark couldn't think of a plan right now. They needed distance more than strategy. A flicker of movement caught his eye. Behind a low branch, he saw the dark-coated man, his laughter menacing. You think you can escape? There's nowhere to hide. He shouted, and behind him, his goons followed, their expressions hardened and ready for a fight. Mark's mind raced as they cut through the thicket. They were nearing the edge of the woods, where the trees thinned out and the terrain sloped down toward a rocky stream. It wasn't much of a sanctuary, but the water would hide their path if they could reach it. Just as they broke through the last of the trees, the boy stumbled, falling to the ground, his small body crashing against the rocks. "Paul!" Sarah cried, rushing back. When she reached the boy, Mark looked over his shoulder, his gut twisting. The man and his crew were gaining ground, too fast to evade now. "Get up!" Mark shouted, urgency slicing through his tone as he scanned their surroundings. They had only a few seconds before the man caught up. "We can't stop." The boy looked up at them, confusion and fear etched on his face. I can't," he stammered, struggling to get back to his feet. "Help him!" Mark yelled at Sarah, his voice cracking under the weight of his own terror. "We have to move." With a surge of adrenaline, Mark rushed back, his hands wrapping around the boy's arms as he wrenched him up. But a sudden scream pierced the air. He turned just in time to see the dark-coated man appear, gun drawn, a sinister grin spreading across his face. "Didn't I tell you to stop running?" he taunted, his eyes glinting with malice. Mark felt his heart drop into his stomach. He drew a steadying breath, and in that moment, he made a split-second decision. "This way!" He snapped at Sarah and the boy, shoving them toward the creek. "We'll drown them out!" Mark yelled, plunging into the icy water with a reckless abandon. It rippled around him as he took hold of both their hands, pulling them in. "I can't swim!" Paul cried, panic lining his voice. "Just hold on." Mark's own fears pulsed like a drumbeat in his ears. He could hear footsteps crashing behind them, the man barking orders at his crew. They were right on their heels. As the water deepened, Mark pushed them forward, the current growing stronger. He felt Sarah's grip slip slightly as they navigated the slippery stones. Then they heard a deafening gunshot that echoed across the water, mingling with their terrified gasps. The weight of dread pressed down on Mark as he yanked them deeper into the stream. But beneath the surface lay a dark maw of uncertainty. "They're coming!" Sarah shouted, but Mark couldn't look back. "Not yet. Just keep moving," he urged, desperation clawing his throat as they fought against the water. How would they escape the clutches of the man who would stop at nothing to follow them? Just as hope began to flicker, a twist of fate turned the current. A wide cascade ahead became visible in the dim light, and without warning, a sudden surge pulled them toward it, and as the water carried them toward an uncertain fate, Mark's mind screamed within, aware that the darkest secrets were about to be unearthed. They plunged over the edge, the torrent swallowing them whole. Water rushed around them, chaotic and cold. Mark fought against the shock, instinctively holding tighter to Paul, the boy's frightened eyes wide, glistening like saucers in the dim light, the world around them blurred, the sound of the waterfall roaring in their ears. Mark risked a glance back just as the dark-coated man appeared at the brink, silhouetted against the setting sun. His booming voice carried like thunder through the chaos. "You can't escape. I will find you." Mark's heart sank. They were tangled in a watery nightmare, and the man was right. There was nowhere to go but deeper into the churning abyss. He felt Sarah's hand slipping away, the water pulling at them like a storm. "Hold on!" he screamed, panic lacing his words. The current twisted, pulling them down, cascading over rocks and roots, relentless. Mark kicked his legs, trying to fight his way up, holding tightly to Paul, who spluttered beside him. "I can't breathe." The boy gasped, terror lacing his voice. "Just keep kicking," Mark shouted, desperation spilling out of him as he struggled against the pull. He could feel its strength, dragging them down. Sarah was there, but only just, fading into the bubbles that surrounded them. Together, they broke the surface. Mark coughed and sputtered, gasping for air as he kicked hard, fighting to keep them afloat. Sarah splashed beside them, her face contorted with fear, yet determination glimmered in her eyes. "We need to get to the bank. Over there," Mark yelled, pointing to a rocky ledge blinking in and out of view through the spray. It would be their chance if they could reach it. With each stroke, they drew closer to the faint outline. Paul slipped under again, and Mark yanked him back, holding him against his chest, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. "You're safe, I promise. Just hold on to me." Then, chaos erupted. From behind, he heard the man's goons shouting, their laughter piercing the air with a sharpness that shot through Mark right to his bones. "They don't stand a chance," one of them shouted. Their shadows loomed larger on the rocks, closing in like vultures. Adrenaline surged through Mark, fueling every ounce of his strength. "We're not done yet," he growled, and with a fierce heave, he propelled himself forward, dragging Paul and Sarah along with him. They broke free from the current, crashing against the bank. Mark rolled onto the gravel, gasping for breath as he pulled them on shore. Paul lay flat, shivering and coughing up water, while Sarah scrambled near them, her eyes darting nervously to the precipice behind them. "Did we lose them?" she panted, urgency pulsating through each word. Mark let his head drop to the ground, his strength waning. "I hope so," he gasped, watching the frenzied splash of the water further back. But shadows loomed at the edge of the trees once more. There was no time to rest. "Paul, can you walk?" Mark asked, propping himself up on shaking arms. The boy nodded, giving a feeble attempt at brushing the dirt from his clothes. Each second felt like an eternity. Just then, Mark's heart sank again. The dark-coated man emerged behind them, calculated and menacing, still holding the gun. "Going somewhere?" he sneered, and in that moment, the power shifted. Fear dripped off Mark like the water that still clung to his skin. They had escaped, but not for long. Despair wrapped its tight grip around his chest as he turned to Sarah and Paul. "Run!" he shouted, and they pushed off the ground, scrambling for safety. But Mark didn't know where they were headed. All he knew was they couldn't be caught, not now, but as the shadows crept closer, and the forest closed in around them, Mark realized they were running out of options. Where do we go?" Sarah asked, uncertainty creeping into her voice. Mark's mind surged. "Toward the cabin," he blurted, the sudden hope flaring inside him. But would it really offer safety, or was it just another trap? As they ran, the echo of footsteps chasing them hung in the air like a heavy shroud. And Mark couldn't shake the feeling that the darkest secrets were not just hidden in the woods, but lying in wait for them in the shadows ahead. They charged into the dense trees, limbs whipping against their faces, as Mark led the way, his heart racing like a freight train. The cabin was just a few hundred yards away, but every footfall felt like a death sentence. "Keep moving. Don't look back." His voice cracked under the strain. Behind them, shouts echoed, raw and hungry. The thrill of the chase was palpable, a hunt that intertwined fear and adrenaline. Paul stumbled, panting heavily, his small body trembling. "Mark, I can't," his voice trailed off. Mark's chest tightened as he reached back, gripping Paul's shoulder firmly. "Just one more push. We're almost there." They barreled through the underbrush, heartbeats hammering in sync. Sarah's breath came in quick gasps beside him, her expression a mix of terror and determination. But when they crashed through the final cluster of trees, the cabin emerged a stark silhouette against the darkening sky. It stood menacing yet inviting, an illusion of safety amidst danger. "Inside," Mark urged, shoving the door open. They stumbled across the threshold, spilling into the dimly lit interior, the smell of wood and dust swirling around them. Mark quickly scanned the tiny room, the flickering candlelight revealing more shadows than light. As they slumped against the wall, he grabbed a nearby chair to prop against the door. "We're safe for now," he breathed, but the assurance felt hollow. The door rattled ominously from the other side. "What now?" Sarah whispered, eyes wide as she pressed against the floor, trying to catch her breath. "I don't know, maybe we can find a way to defend ourselves," Mark answered, desperation clawing at him. The reality of their situation crashed down on him, the weight of protecting the children crushing. "No weapons here." Paul's voice quivered, echoing defeat. We're trapped. Mark's mind raced. He couldn't afford to panic. They needed a plan. Glancing over at the windows, he noticed the curtains flapping lazily before a gust of wind. We could climb out the back if we're quick, maybe we can lose them. But before he could elaborate, a loud crash jolted them. The front door splintered inward, and the dark-coated man and one of his goons broke into the cabin, eyes gleaming with menace. "There you are," the man drawled, glancing at each of them with chilling indifference. "You thought you could hide? Pathetic." Mark's pulse quickened. "Get back!" he roared, standing in front of the terrified children. "Or what? You'll fight me with your bare hands?" The man laughed low, dark amusement dancing in his eyes. "This game has gone on long enough, it's time to finish this." Mark felt the weight of the moment press in on him. For all the bravado, he was outmatched. He could see the glint of cold steel in the goon's hand as he took a step forward. "Run!" he yelled to Sarah and Paul, adrenaline spurring him. They hesitated for a heartbeat, fear etched on their faces. Paul finally responded, grabbing Sarah's hand. "Come on!" he shouted, pulling her toward the back as Mark turned to face their pursuer, heart pounding. But then, just as he drew the man's attention, a sudden movement from the side caught Mark's eye. A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman with wild hair, fierce eyes blazing. "Stop!" she commanded, stepping into the light. The tension in the room shifted, surprise cutting through the dark atmosphere. "Who are you?" the dark-coated man spat, eyes narrowing at the unexpected arrival. "Enough games. It's time you heard the truth," she replied, voice steady. "Mark, you don't know everything about what is happening here." Mark's mind raced. What truth could possibly change the game? As the woman stepped closer, a flash of recognition crossed her face, one that made Mark's blood run cold. The secrets of the past were rising like ghosts, and their revelation threatened to alter everything he thought he knew. "What do you mean?" he demanded, fear coiling tightly around his gut. But the woman didn't answer. Instead, she turned sharply to face the man, her stance firm. "You won't take them. Not today." As the confrontation intensified, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change again. But would it be for better or worse? What truth lay in wait for him beneath layers of deception? The tension in the small cabin was suffocating. Mark's heart raced, pounding against his ribcage as he faced the man in the dark coat and the looming threat of the armed goon. The weight of protecting Paul and Sarah pressed down on him, but before he could act, the woman took another step forward, her eyes sharp and fierce. "Mark, listen to me," she said urgently, her voice cutting through the fear enveloping them. "You have to understand what's at stake. They're not just after you, they're after something much bigger." The dark-coated man sneered, his amusement chilling. "You think a wild card like you can change anything? The game is already in motion." "No!" Mark shouted, an ember of hope igniting within him. "She's right. Tell me the truth, whatever it is." The woman pointed at Mark, her gaze unwavering. "You don't even know why they want you. It's not just about being a father to Paul, it's about who you are, who you were meant to be." "Enough." The man lunged forward, but the woman interjected, raising her arm like a barrier between them. "Listen, if you so much as touch him, you will regret it. You're playing with fire, and I'm the flame that will consume you." In that instant, another loud crash reverberated against the door, sending splinters flying. Panic swept over Mark, they were running out of time. "We need to move," he yelled, urgency clawing at him. The woman turned sharp, her eyes emboldened with conviction. "There's a way out the cellar. But we have to hurry before they overwhelm us." "Go!" shouted Mark to Sarah and Paul. "Get to the back door now." As they bolted for the exit, Mark turned to face the dark-coated man, teeth clenched and ready to fight. "You won't touch them." The man laughed a low, rumbling sound that sent chills down Mark's spine. "What are you going to do? Fight me? You can't protect them. You never could." Mark leapt forward, determined to buy them some time. He charged, adrenaline throwing caution to the wind, swinging wildly at the man just as he stepped aside, the blow missing him completely. But an unexpected kick from the woman sent the goon sprawling. Seizing the moment, Mark shouted, "Now, move." They raced toward the back, but the woman wasn't finished. "Mark, we can't leave this behind," she said, pointing at a dusty box tucked in the corner. "It's vital. You need to know who you are. Later." Mark shouted, urgency erupting as he grabbed Paul's hand. They burst through the back door and stumbled into the overgrown garden just beyond, anxiety thrumming like a living thing. "Run!" he yelled, pushing the children ahead while glancing back at the cabin, the shadows of their pursuers growing ever closer. With fear pumping through their legs, they sprinted for the woods again. The leaves crunched beneath them, echoing their panic as the dark-coated man's voice boomed behind them, "You won't escape. I'll destroy everything you love." But Mark wouldn't be stopped. Not now. He was fighting for them both, for a future he never thought he'd have. Mist swirled through the trees, cloaking their escape, and with every heavy inhale, it felt like they could finally be free. "Where do we go?" Paul cried, the panic rising again. "Just keep moving," Mark urged, glancing over his shoulder. They broke past the tree line and into a clearing where a pair of old, rusted cars lay, remnants of forgotten memories. "Over there," Sarah yelled, pointing toward a dilapidated shed. They dashed inside, slamming the door shut, and pressed their backs against the wooden walls. Heavy breathing filled the air as they crouched low, hearts pounding in unison. Inside, Mark's mind raced. "What's the plan now?" he whispered, glancing at the old tools scattered around him. Hiding won't be enough, the woman from the cabin had followed them in, her eyes intense and pleading. "They know where you are now and they won't give up. But if you trust me, I can help." Mark's brow furrowed. "Help with what?" "The truth. It's time you understood your past, because it's your only hope of protecting them." The children looked between them, confusion and fear dancing in their wide eyes. Mark knelt down. "Listen to me, you two," he said softly, gripping Paul's shoulder. "Whatever happens, you have to trust me. Just hold on tight." He turned to the woman, their very survival hanging in the balance. "What do I need to know?" "Your father," she began, a familiar intensity behind her words, "was part of something big, something dark. And it's coming for you. They already know you exist, and they fear what you'll become." The door rattled violently as the dark-coated man knocked from the outside. "Give up now, Mark. You have no idea what you're dealing with." Mark felt the weight of the moment crash over him, the panic, the urgency, and the undeniable bond he now shared with these children. They had just faced death together, and there was courage flickering in Paul's gaze, even in the chaos. "I'll do whatever it takes," Mark vowed, an ignited determination bursting forth. The truth felt within reach, and he had to uncover it for their sake. "I want to let them take you." With a final, loud bang, the door splintered open, and the man stepped inside, fury igniting in his eyes. Mark stood tall, heart racing but resolute. The battle wasn't over, but the truth was ready to be fought for, to protect what was becoming painfully clear. Family wasn't about blood, it was bound in a fight for love, and nothing would extinguish that flame. "Stand back!" Mark shouted as he prepared for what lay ahead, ready to defend his newfound family against the darkness that would stop at nothing to take them away. Their fight was just beginning. Now, reflect on Mark's ordeal. Did he have the strength to protect what he loved? Join the conversation. Subscribe immediately to the channel for more gripping stories like this. You need to stay connected. Hit that like button now to keep the momentum going. I want to hear your thoughts flooding the comments section about what you think will happen next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. Show your support. You're a part of this story.